Welcome to the local campaign here on Rogers TV. As we get closer to Election Day on October 24th, we turn our attention to municipal debates. Today's debate is with Ward 3, Barrhaven West. And before I introduce you to our candidates, I'll go over the format for everybody at home and, of course, for our candidates here in studio. We begin with an opening statement. The opening statement will be 60 seconds. Each candidate will get the same amount of time, and we'll do that in a random order that we just did just a few moments ago. Following that, we'll be discussing some of the important topics, not only to constituents in the ward, but of course to residents right across the city in a debate format. And how that will work is I will ask one of the candidates a question. They will have 45 seconds to answer that question, and then we open it up for full debate to all candidates. At the end of it, I'll go back to that original candidate and they will have 30 seconds to wrap up on that topic. We'll go through that on a few different topics, of course, and then we'll wrap things up with closing statements for each candidate. They will have 60 seconds to do so. So let me introduce you to our candidates, starting with Taayo Simmonds. Welcome, Taayo.
Thank you, Derick.
Jay Chadha. Jay, welcome.
Thank you.
And David Hill.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here, David. All right, we begin, as I said, with our opening statements, and we start with you, Taayo. You have 60 seconds.
Well, thank you, Derick, and thank you, Rogers, for hosting this debate. My name is Taayo Simmonds. I'm not your typical political candidate. I wasn't born to a well-connected or wealthy family. I was raised by a single mother who cared about community and taught me to serve others. As a lawyer, I represent everyday people. As the founder of a charity, I believe the measure of society is in how we treat our most vulnerable residents. And as a father and husband, I care deeply about keeping our communities safe. But our city's at a crossroads. It's more expensive to live here, it's harder to get around, and it feels like City Hall is unaware that family budgets are tight. But we have an opportunity to turn things around. Let's crack down on stunt driving, let's build better roads and invest in public spaces, and let's put an end to wasteful spending. This is an important election, and on October 24th, we need to get back to putting families first at City Hall.
Thank you very much, Taayo. Next up is Jay Chadha. Jay, you have 60 seconds for your opening statement.
Yes, thank you. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that we're on the traditional territory and unceded territory of the Algonquin Nation. Each day we greet and honor the original inhabitant of the land. Also like to thank Derick for moderating and Rogers for organizing this debate. My name is Jay Chadha. I'm running to be next city councillor for Barrhaven West. Our city, and especially Barrhaven, is in a critical stage of growth and development. We have a unique opportunity to have a fresh voice and perspective at City Hall. I've been involved in Barrhaven community for the last 20 years, worked with various nonprofit organizations at the grassroots level to better serve our community. I served as a president for Barrhaven East Community Association, volunteer director at Barrhaven Food Cupboard, and currently serving as a grant review committee member for Ontario Trillium Foundation. I'm fully committed to serve you as a councillor. I'm currently on unpaid leave of absence from City of Ottawa. I worked for OC Transfer for the last 20 years and have extensive experience and knowledge about the operation and how to fix OC Transfer. With my background, experience, and knowledge, I will be your strong voice at City Hall. I will ensure that we bring accountability, transparency, and much needed common sense at City Hall. We need to ensure that we work to innovate and build Barrhaven for our next generation.
Thank you very much, Jay. David Hill, you have 60 seconds for your opening statement.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to have this opportunity today to share the stage with my colleagues here in order to participate in this most foundational component of our democratic process: free speech, debate, and fair election processes. I get the importance of this because I've seen firsthand the tragedies when democracy is taken for granted. It's a privilege for me to represent my vision for common sense, pragmatic, and optimistic leadership for this city. And the timing could not be more important. We're on the cusp of an economic downturn, and without proven leadership, we could see jobs lost, taxes spike, businesses fail, increased crime, infrastructure continue to crumble, and all while we navigate the crises of affordability, homelessness, climate change, healthcare, and societal polarization. I look forward to unpacking these issues throughout this debate. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen.
All right, thank you very much to all of you. That does it for our opening statement. As I said, now we begin the debate portion. And Taayo, I'll start with you. You'll have 45 seconds. Let's talk public transit. A couple of you touched on it. With hybrid work models that we are seeing right now, there is even some discussion on whether there should be a phase 3 of LRT going out to your ward. Should that be revisited? And How would you go about making public transit affordable, reliable, and accessible to all, and your opinions on free transit for all? Taayo, you have 45 seconds to open.
Thank you, Derick. So I approach this question from a unique perspective. I was raised by a single mother, as I mentioned. We didn't have a vehicle growing up. We took the bus everywhere. And so I know how important reliable public transit is. And right now in the city, and particularly in Barrhaven, we don't have that. And so what do we need to do? We need to improve routes within Barrhaven and to other parts of the city. Number two, we're awaiting the findings of the LRT inquiry. The next city councilor, and I hope to be that person, needs to act on those findings. We need to get LRT working. And three, here's what isn't the answer, is we need reliable public transit. Free transit will not make transit better. I've been a strong opponent of that idea. It's not a good idea. It's not fair. Let's focus on reliability.
Taayo, that's it for the opening. You'll have a chance to wrap up a little bit later, but everybody, the floor is now open.
I think everybody agrees that we need better public transit, and I'm the only candidate in the ward that has the experience. I have 20 years of experience working at OC Transport. We spend $1.7 million a day. OC Transport is costing us $400 an hour, highest in North America to run. Yet we're sending 400 buses empty every day downtown and bringing those 400 buses back empty every day. We don't have reliability in the suburbs. We cannot put our kids, our elderly, our seniors to get reliably on the bus from Half Moon Bay, Stonebridge to go reliably to Walmart. We don't have that reliability. I'm not a supporter of free transit. I think we need to make it reliable before we talk about any other thing. We need to make it affordable for everybody. We need to make it reliable so that people can start using it. Also, the LRT. I was involved in the LRT project. I think there's a need to fix the relationship with RTM, because these are our partners that we've signed an agreement for next 30 years. We have 27 more years left in this agreement. We need to make sure that partnership works together, that we have the reliability and affordability for all the residents.
So Jay, I just wanted to jump in for a moment. So you spoke to your credentials as an employee with OC Transpo, and your understanding of the intimate kind of the way that transportation could be potentially adjusted into the future. I come at this from the perspective of a transit rider. So I took the bus into the studio this morning in order to experience, what it was going to be like the day after Labor Day when folks are going back to work in this hybrid model. And I saw what I expected to see. There were 6 people on the bus. The bus has the capacity for 80 people. That is a waste. We do not need to hire additional employees into OC Transpo to add buses, to add more rapid transit, as my colleagues have at one point or another spoken to. But what I would recommend is that we look to retool some of those express routes, that we increase the investment in local transit at the expense of some of the rapid downtown transit. But we need a revisioning. We need to look at what it is that the purpose of transit is supposed to bring to the city. The model of the suburbs, the lazy suburbs, sleeping in and waking up and going downtown to their federal employee jobs, that time is done. We need to get people from Barrhaven out to the tech park in Canada.
Yeah, I'm just going to stop you there just so that everybody can get in. Taayo, do you want to add to this?
And so just to respond to that point, Mr. Hill talks about revisioning, and he says that we don't need to hire new bus drivers. Well, OC Transpo themselves are identifying that we do need more drivers. And so we need to listen to the experts on this. We need to action this. That's how we're going to improve reliability.
But you're going to need to answer how you're going to pay for that,
It's not revisioning statements. Public transit is a core service in our city. Mr. Hill just said, how are we going to pay for that? We need to pick priorities. One is remaining connected. If you're in Barrhaven right now, you know how hard it is to get around. We need to prioritize public transit.
I agree with Taayo that we need to hire additional drivers, because there's so much attrition happening inside the OC Toronto. We're losing about 50 to 70 drivers every month for retirement and attrition. So we need to have those additional drivers to make sure that the routes that we're pivoting transit from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, downtown traffic over to suburbs to make it more reliable within the suburbs. And as for LRT, I think the $4.1 billion price tag that we have for the extension of Stage 3, I think we need to revisit that to see if that is best bang for a buck. We need to have a public consultation to see if we're going to continue to pay for that investments, and we don't have money right now. We're in a debt. Our city has $3 billion debt right now. So we need to make sure.
The mechanism in order to have reliable transit is through good communication. It's through a system to identify when buses are going to go to the right place at the right time to pick people up.
So
you
right
don't
now
need
we have a
more
problem with the
empty buses.
scheduling. We have a
We do
problem
not
with the
need more
scheduling
empty
where we
buses
have-
going downtown. We need more reliable communications.
Understand,
and
but we have a
involvement.
scheduling issue where we have buses coming from Orleans to
Sorry,
Barrhaven.
gentlemen, I appreciate your passion, but we're going to have to stop there. But Taayo, you have 30 seconds to wrap up on the topic.
And so it's clear to see here, Mr. Hill's on the wrong side of this issue. Revisioning, clear communications, that's important. But what we've heard from OC Transport, what we've heard from two candidates on this stage, is we need to invest in public transit drivers. We need more operators. And so if you believe that public transit is a priority, you need to vote for that. We need to vote for candidates who will advocate for that. And that's just what I'll do.
All right, thank you very much. We'll move on to the next topic. Jay, we'll start with you on this topic. You'll have 45 seconds. There's a growing concern over the city's growing debt. Where would you set tax increases over the next 4 years, taking that into account? Jay, you have 45 seconds.
So I believe, as you already said, there's an increased debt. We're with $3 billion in debt right now. I don't believe we have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. We collect $4.1 billion revenue every year from the city taxpayers and funding that we get from the government. We have a spending problem. We're not spending enough on the projects that we need right now, and we're spending on some of the projects that we could hold off at this point because the pandemic have changed our criteria and vision for the future. One example is Central Library downtown. We're overspending millions of dollars on Central Library. We're building Lansdowne 2.0, where we haven't really got our money's worth for the project from a Lansdowne 1 with the first project. But we're not spending on the projects that we need in the ward. Greenbank Road realignment was promised, before Half Moon Bay started building. Now we're saying it's 10 additional years. Barnesville exit. We just are building.
All right, that's time. I'll open it up to the entire floor here.
We're building a new
So there was
development.
discussion about debt here, and we just heard two candidates talk about how they want to spend more money in an organization that needs a revisioning before we've done the revisioning. So I think that's telling. I want to talk about the economy and the importance of our local economy. There's been, I would argue there's been not enough discussion on this topic throughout the municipal election period. Because in essence, if we don't continue to focus on the importance of local businesses and growing our economy, then as we go into the next decade, where we're going to see 400,000 new people come into the city, that's the projected numbers, we need to make sure the economy can sustain those jobs. And in a period of inflation, and in a period where jobs are going to be more difficult to come by, we need to make sure that we can enable these 15-minute communities to have easy access to jobs. Otherwise, the entire program that we're looking at in our official plan is going to be in jeopardy because we're investing in transportation models that are not necessarily aligned with
David,
where we
I'll
need
stop you
our
there.
So what we'll notice is that there wasn't an answer to that question. So the question is, where would we set tax increases? And so we haven't heard that yet from either candidate on this stage. And so one thing that we know right now is the 2023 draft budget is currently, it's being drafted. It will be put to the new council in November. We're gonna have a very quick time to turn that around. We need a city councilor who's ready on day one to address these issues. And so I've been talking about this all campaign. Family budgets are tight. City Hall keeps talking about proposing and implementing new tax increases. That's not what we need. We need affordability options.
So you didn't answer the question either, Taayo. Are you saying that you're going to look at increasing taxes? Because that's what you put to us at the beginning.
Yeah, and so that's very simple. Like I said, the budget is being drafted in November. City Council will receive that draft budget. In January, we will have to approve the budget. And so, no candidate here would be telling the truth if they said they're going to rewrite a budget in about 45 or 60
there's no way that we can do
45
that
or
in
60
45.
days.
There's
That's
no way
not
that we
going to
can
happen.
do that. But we need to look ahead in the vision to see what we would do as soon as we get in for the future budgets, because we simply cannot have with the inflation 8.1% in inflation that's rising every month, every day. We cannot afford more taxes. We need to put a stop to more tax increases. We need to make sure that they stay at the level that is affordable, and we need to make sure that we get best bang out of our buck. And I say it again, we don't have a revenue problem. We collect $4.1 billion in revenue. We have a spending problem. We're not spending taxpayers' money like we should, like our own money. We're treating taxpayers as a blank check, where we're just, we don't have the proper oversight.
Exactly.
Our budgets, our projects are running
Exactly.
over budget. We need that oversight.
And here's how we do that specifically. One, as I've mentioned, we oppose free transit idea, which would raise property taxes $500 to $1,000 on every homeowner in Ottawa. That's number one. Number two,
no one's gonna
I'm the
disagree
only
with you on that,
candidate.
Taayo.
Number two, I'm the only candidate that has talked about the problem with the supposed vacant unit tax. The vacant unit tax will be a tax that will be imposed on all homeowners. There's only 1,600 vacant units in Ottawa, according to the city. However, the vacant unit tax would be applied to all residents of Ottawa, over 300,000 residents. That's not fair. And so I'm the only candidate on the stage who's talked about the vacant unit tax. It's not the right way to go at vacant units. We need to look at affordability options.
So talking about taxes, you need to take a step back and you need to look at what the requirements are. I would offer that before we start talking about places that you can identify to chop programming.
We're not saying we're chopping programming. We're saying we need to control our spending.
We need to look at the requirements that the city has and the city needs in order to prioritize that funding. And then from there, we make common sense, pragmatic judgments about where our taxes need to fall.
So
nobody's going to say we need to increase them broadly.
So where's your number?
I don't have a number, nor do you, Taayo.
Okay.
But the reality is we need to use common sense because people need to look at affordability in their
course,
taxes.
but you've given no specifics.
Sorry, I got to wrap it up there.
There's no
Jay, you have
specifics.
30 seconds to wrap on this
So
topic.
just to wrap on this topic, we cannot have billions of dollars of debt right now. We're borrowing against an asset. We borrowed right now, we're 17% borrowed against our assets. We cannot do that going forward. Our next generation will be paying for this for generations to come. You know, we have $6 billion budget and 17,000 employees. Our tax tripled. Our debt has tripled in the last few years, and we're paying $240 million in debt payment every year. That's money that we don't need to pay. We can spend that money on the projects that we need in the communities and in our ward right now.
All right, thank you, Jay. David, we start the next topic with you. You'll have 45 seconds to open it. I believe Taayo touched on this in his opening statement, and that is aggressive driving, speeding, stunt driving. There's also a rise of crime in Barrhaven that a lot of residents are concerned with. What solutions would you bring to the table to help alleviate some of those issues? David, over to you.
Thank you, Derick. So this is kind of close to my heart because as a retired 25-year veteran of the Canadian Forces, I look at everything through the lens of security and safety, and certainly this is a problem that really I don't understand why we're having it. It's been identified for a long time, and what I would propose is, given my background in the security sector, I would look to advocate to serve with the Police Services Board in order to bring some of my experience and technical knowledge on security operations to support the mandate and the resourcing of OPS to have the right balance of security elements to deal with not just stunt driving, crime, and speeding, but also
we're going to open it up to everybody
with
here.
other issues.
Yeah, and so let me give specifics. I worked at Justice Canada as a criminal law policy advisor. This is something that's close to my heart, something I understand. And so one thing we need to do specifically is we need to invest in policing. We need to bring Ottawa's policing levels in line with the national average. Ottawa is well below the national average when it comes to policing per population. We need to fix that. That's number one. Two, we need to expand the automated speeding program. We need to expand speed cameras. We need to crack down on stunt driving. The minimum penalty is $2,000. There's a vehicle suspension. There's vehicle impoundment. What we need to do is pull people over. That's why we need police resources.
Let's talk about the ward itself. The crime went up 20.7% in the ward last year. There were 6,700 police calls that were made in the ward to Ottawa Police last year. We have car break-ins, carjacking, speeding, everything happening in the ward every day, and we're not doing much about it. I started a petition when I went door knocking. I met a family that their car got stolen right in front of their driveway, and they had the video footage, and police did not even show up to take the report. We need those police resources right here in Barrhaven. Last election, there was debate about having a police headquarters, and we were promised that we would have the police headquarters in Prince of Wales right in our ward after the election. We don't even have a shovel in the ground for the police headquarters. We need those police resources where we need right here in the ward. We need police patrolling. There's two things that police does. They do crime prevention and they do crime solving. So we need to work with the community partners, community associations, and neighborhood watch program to bring those resources back in our neighborhood to make sure that we have the stability and safety aspect that we in our community and a ward that is the forefront of every residence.
Jay, I agree, and I agree with the fact that we do need the second headquarters in Barrhaven, but here's the other part. We can't identify the fact that OPS lacks resources, but then be overly critical about response times. You know, that is the problem, is that they're stretched thin. And so what do we do at City Council? We invest in law enforcement, we make it a priority, we stop playing the political games, and we just get real about making our communities safe, particularly in Barrhaven. There were 2 car thefts on my street this past week, and so this is something that touches all of Barrhaven.
But there's a broader issue there too. It needs to be looked at beyond just what the individual criminal activities are, but the function of OPS. There's more than just Barrhaven at stake here. There's a critical element across the whole city of how we balance the necessary requirements that we want for our police services, whether that be mental health supports, whether that be addiction actions, and having the right mix of capabilities. And that's what I'm talking about when I say we need to revision why it is that we need certain types of resources going into the investment package for the Ottawa Police, and how we can perhaps do a more efficient job. And that's why I am advocating to support my service through the Police Services Board to bring a technical background to that. I would also say both of my colleagues have indicated.
Yeah, let Taayo, you'll have a chance to wrap here, so go ahead.
Just to respond there, OPS is already looking into ways to partner with community organizations, and I support that. But respectfully, saying that you'll sit on the Police Services Board or advocate to sit on the board isn't a plan. We talk about car thefts in Barrhaven, we talk about car thefts in Ottawa. One thing we need to do is we need to speak with I'll give it to you right now, we need to talk to the federal government. We need to advocate for mandatory minimum penalties for repeat offenders when it comes to theft over $5,000. The problem is we're doing catch and release. People are being arrested, they're being putting back on the street, and they're stealing cars again. We need stronger penalties. We need to advocate for that at the federal level.
Because what happens is if you don't stop those petty crimes that were car theft and all, they'll go to the next level. They start breaking into the homes, and our community cannot support that. We're going to have another 30,000 people coming into Barrhaven in the next 5-10 years. We need to have that, make sure that we have those police resources where we need. We're not looking to make we're not look at our ward as a police state. We need proper resources and funding for those.
I'm going to cut it there. David, you have 30 seconds to wrap on the topic.
Yeah, so I would say I unequivocally am a supporter of our security services, and I understand firsthand the challenge it is to walk that thin blue line between too much response and not enough response. I want to see the City of Ottawa, through the Police Services Board, enable our police forces to do the things that they need to do. There are some shortfalls right now based on resource limitations, and I don't think that quick hit talking points without the knowledge really is
David,
the best way.
time's up. I apologize, but time is up. Taayo, we come back to you for the next topic. Again, you'll have 45 seconds. How would you address the immediate need for affordable housing, and in particular, affordable rental housing? You have 45 seconds, Taayo.
Yeah, thanks, Derick. And so this is an issue that I know personally I'm a product of affordable housing. And so I support the city's 10-year goal to create 8,500 affordable housing units. But how do we do that? One, we need to transition city-owned land to not-for-profit organizations who will construct affordable housing units, whether that's through sale, whether that's through land use agreements. I will facilitate that as councillor. Two, support and strengthen Action Ottawa, which aims to increase the supply of low-income affordable housing units. That's another important thing. But the other thing is we can't just build the housing units. We need the wraparound services. And so that means reliable public transit. That means medical clinics. That means everything else that makes the community safe and welcoming.
All right, I'm going to open it up to all candidates.
I think another part of this is that we need to look at the rental subsidies for a community. Projects like Nepean Housing Corporation that need to be supported. They've done a wonderful job throughout the city of Ottawa to build those affordable housing right here in the ward. We need to support them. We work with these organizations to ensure that they continue to support this. I've worked with many non-profit organizations such as Nepean Housing as my role at the Ontario Touring Foundation as a grant review committee member to approve those projects to make sure that we bring those affordable houses in the communities that we need. We also have a provision in the Municipal Act that we can mandate developers to build a certain amount of affordable housing in the development they're building. We're now utilizing that mandate. I think it's time to look at that mandate. We're building so many new homes, hundreds of new homes every year in Barrhaven. We can mandate the developers to build certain percentage of those homes to be affordable housing, because life is getting tough. I've lived through that from my start. I moved to this country in 1997. That's when I lived through this whole issue, and I know how hard it is to raise a family and have affordable housing. So I think
Jay, I share your sentiment, Jay. I share your sentiment on
Okay, let's just do one at a time here. David, you go, and then we'll come back to you,
Derick. What has not been spoken to is the economic component to this issue. We have a housing supply shortage. We need to look at creative and innovative and smart ways to develop more residential development in the appropriate places with the appropriate services that belie them. So transit-oriented development, as an example, infill development downtown. Those are core elements to this solution space, because the issue here is not only in the deeply affordable space, it's also with the folks in the middle class who are having a hard enough time after university just being able to go out and find a house that's affordable. We need to increase our investment in housing supply, and we need to do it in a smart way. And leveraging the National Capital Commission, leveraging the resources that we have here in the City of Ottawa to be smarter about how we develop and where we develop, I think is going to be a core element over the next term.
I think we need to
I said Taayo could jump,
Yeah,
so
and
go
so
ahead.
just the problem with that is Mr. Hill has talked about kind of his priorities of keeping spending down, and yet he's committing the city to an area of jurisdiction that isn't within municipal jurisdiction. And so there are provincial and federal programs when it comes to affordable housing. And so this is one of the issues where we're in agreement across all three levels of government. And so one thing we need to do, it's not for the municipal government to spend millions and millions and millions of dollars on affordable housing, but to access the existing programs, grants, and funding that are available at the federal level, federal and provincial levels. And so that's what we should do.
The city does access
Let
those.
let Jay speak here.
I think there are some projects in the ward that recently got approved. So for example, the land at Longfields and Jockville were sold to a nonprofit for $2 and given to a proven nonprofit developer that will build those units. We need to make sure that we continue to invest in those type of projects so that we get the affordability under control. And you know, in the next budget, we're spending $17 million. We have $4.1 billion revenue. We're spending only $17 million in develop new affordable communities in our city. So we need to look at, I'm not saying we need to increase the spending. We need to make sure that we balance our priorities and spend money where we need and where we get the best value of our buck.
Okay, David, go ahead.
The city is coordinating with other levels of government. What I'm saying is we need to revisit that process, because there are efficiencies that we can find in that. From my experience as a volunteer board, from my experience as a volunteer,
we need specifics, Mr. Hill.
So I'm trying to give specifics. You would not cut me off, please.
I'm waiting.
So in my experience, serving with the Multi-Faith Housing Initiative in the actual Barrhaven community, with the low-income housing at the Haven, I had the opportunity to interact with those individuals on the broad social supports
David,
that they were
we've run
giving
out of
to
time.
that housing
I apologize,
development.
but Taayo, you have 30 seconds to wrap on this topic.
Yeah, and so I run a charity. It's called the Gwen Simmonds Foundation in my mother's honor. We give bursaries to single mothers who are going through school, and so I know how important this is: affordable housing, lower rent. And so once again, what we need to do is we need to support and strengthen the city's existing efforts through increasing affordable housing supply, partnering with community organizations for land acquisition, land use agreements, and working with the federal government, provincial government, accessing the money that's already available.
All right, thank you very much, Taayo. Next topic, I'll start with you, Jay. Do you believe the City of Ottawa can and should play a role in climate change? And if so, what solutions would you bring to the table? You have 45 seconds to open.
100%. I think climate change is a very serious issue, and Barrhaven felt the effects of that during the May long weekend storms. We lost thousands of trees around the neighborhood. Some further parts of wards were left without power for days and up to a week. I think we need to have proper tree canopy. It can get hot on the suburban streets in the summer, and we know this will help give us shade. There was actually a study done recently with the heat wave that we had, that there were some areas in Meadowland area that were 4 to 5 degrees less than streets in Barrhaven. So we need to look at those initiatives to plant more trees. I would also look at our power grid to make sure that we can make it more greener, protecting our existing green space. We cannot pave all over streets. We need to have urban forest and land for people to enjoy. Looking forward to the new trails at the Jock River.
Sorry, I'm going to cut you off there, Jay, but let's just open this up to everybody now.
So I think Jay makes some good points, and I'll go a bit further. And so I worry about the environment as well. I have 2 young kids, and I think about what type of environment are we going to leave for them? And so what can we do at the city level? One, we know that city-owned vehicles and buildings account for 88% of greenhouse gas emissions produced within the city. And so what we can do at the city level, and I've seen some mayoral candidates talk about this, and I appreciate that, is one, transition city-owned vehicles from a gas power fleet to electric or hybrid. 2, work towards ensuring that new city buildings are constructed to a net zero emission standard. That's important to get that right and to show leadership from the city level.
I agree with Taayo. I think we've seen that example with the recent electrifying fleet for the OC Transport. With the next 10, 15 years, we'll have our OC Transport fleet 100% electric, working with the federal government to get that funding that we need to make sure that we address the climate change. Also, we need to look at to see how we can incentivize our electric vehicle. I own an electric vehicle, I drive an electric vehicle, and I want to make sure that we incentivize those people that want to make the move to electric vehicle. And also we want to put some cost recovery options for people to charge vehicles. I've seen some cities in the Europe and US are making those electric charges at the street level, so that we give those options for people that are using those electric vehicles to make sure that they continue to help our economy and also help our climate change.
So this topic speaks to the very essence of, I think, one of the most critical debates that's going to happen over the next term of council, and that is the balance between our climate obligations and our economy. And the reality is we cannot go all in on either. We need to take a balanced and measured approach. My colleagues have spoken to the environmental option that it actually is in place in the Transportation Master Plan, which looks at the greening of the fleet, the investment in electric buses and such. We cannot go too quickly on this option. A, it is very expensive, and B, there are safety concerns with some of these vehicles that have not been completely proven yet. We need to be very careful that we don't get ourselves too far in undermining our local economy in order to do things that look like they're on the surface environmentally friendly, but in reality, they're simply lipstick on a pig. My comment to this would be that we need to invest in real environmental programs. And I would offer that my background as an outdoor enthusiast, I'm a kayaker, I'm a skier, I'm all in to do everything we can to enable a positive environment for our future. But we need to be careful, because there are policies right now in the Transportation Master Plan that will undermine the building of the Green Bank realignment if we go forward on active transit at the expense of transit.
So, Mr. First of all, this is a false dichotomy. We don't need to say it's roads or environment. Yeah, you talk about envisioning, but that's a lack of imagination.
That's what the latest update to the Transportation Master Plan said.
That's actually not true, and we'll get into that later. But two, is you talked about lipstick on a pig in reference to electric vehicles, and I just wanted you to kind of clarify that comment, because we're talking about environment, we're talking about cleaner, greener vehicles, and of course we want to make sure we're doing that in a responsible way. Nobody's saying we shouldn't do that, but I'm just asking, why are you denigrating the city's efforts
it's not a denigration.
To have a cleaner
It's a reality that we need to make sure that the policies we select are effective at the grassroots level, and they will actually have an impact, as opposed to make a 40-character tweet.
So I think those electric, I'll make a point to the OC Transport electric vehicle. Those electric vehicles have been made in Canada by a company that has proven technology that's been proven in other cities within the US and all over Canada. So I think I agree with you that we need to carefully look at to see how our infrastructure will support it. But I think we need to proceed ahead with these electric vehicles, because that is what will get people out of the cars.
Sorry, we run out of time, but Jay, you have 30 seconds to wrap up this.
I think climate change is a very big topic. I think we need to do whatever we can from a municipal level to help to change the climate and environment. We need to get people out of their cars, into the buses, into public transit, into the bike paths, onto some sustainable modes of transit. And I think, if we can make I refer back to our transit, if we can make our transit more reliable, where right now the transit is not reliable because the bus that's coming from Orleans to Barrhaven is doing the local run in Barrhaven. So we cannot reliably take that bus and go to places where we need to go. So we need to make sure that people use.
That's time for that. Sorry, Jay. We're going to move on to the next topic. We start with you, David, on this one. You'll have 45 seconds to open. Let's talk about roads, because there's a long list of roads that need attention in your ward right across the entire city, and there's a lot of frustration from residents in how that's scheduled, prioritizing the worst roads, and then scheduling it around other infrastructure needs. David, what solutions do you bring to the table? You have 45 seconds to open the topic.
So the first solution I'll bring to the table is honesty and transparency. We're 10 years behind on our road get well plan. The infrastructure is crumbling, and we do need to go through a triage process of prioritizing the worst of the worst in order to repair and renovate them. This is where I get into my discussion about the current Transportation Master Plan and its prioritization. We need to make sure that the suburbs are not unduly penalized against their way of life of just getting around, taking kids to activities in school, getting to work. until such point that there are jobs available within the area so that people can get to them. I led the petition for the Greenbank realignment. I'm the champion of that issue,
Okay,
and I will
that's it for
continue
our
to
opening.
fight for that.
That's it for the opening. Let's open up to everybody here.
So Mr. Hill at the end there referenced his petition. I think it's important to talk about that now. And so a few months back, Mr. Hill produced and distributed a petition. He received a number of emails from that petition. He said he would present it to City Council. Of course, we know that every petition that is presented to City Council is public information. I took a look for that petition. I could not find it. I called the city. They could not find that.
It was received
being presented
by the
to City
Transportation
Council.
Master Plan.
And so if I can
public
finish, the
engagement
petition
phase,
itself,
and that was
the petition itself
spoken
says
to
it
by
would
the
be
city
distributed.
councillor, so it was received. Thank you very much,
If I can finish
Taayo.
that point, the petition itself said it would be distributed to City Council. It wasn't. What did Mr. Hill do instead? Last week, he sent out a fundraising email to everybody who signed that petition saying that they need to elect him if they want to get Greenbank done. That's playing politics on the #1 road infrastructure issue in our ward.
It's
I'm asking
identifying
Mr.
a
Hill
core
David-
issue.
let's
right
let
now
David
to apologize
jump
and
in here.
to give the money back that he raised.
Go ahead, David.
So to be clear, the #1 issue that we need to address and champion, and I will not for a second go back on this, is the fact that we need to support the people who live in Half Moon Bay with the infrastructure they need and that they were promised in 2007 when they moved into those residences.
You
and
promised-
I am the
you
champion,
promised to send
and
that
I
into
am the
council and
champion
you
of that
didn't.
issue, and I have been. I spent my winter supporting people so that that petition could be supported to the public engagement phase of the Transportation Master Plan in time for that. It was not tokenism.
project-
It was
let's
something
let
that
Jay
we
jump
allowed
in
to
here,
happen.
That project that we talked about was promised before Half Moon Bay started building. Now we're
2007.
saying it's another 10 years. We cannot build our homes and wait for infrastructure to come. There needs to be a balance between development and infrastructure. We need to make sure that people have good access in and out of the communities. Greenbank Road is an accident waiting to happen. That realignment needs to be done now,
And
I
it
will
has
champion.
happened.
And that's what we need to be proactive. We cannot be reactive and do something after the fact. So we need to make sure that we prioritize a 416 Barnesdale exit. We work with other government or other counterparts in the government. I've listened to a lot of residents at the doors. They have to go back to Bankfield to get on the 416. They go backwards 10 minutes to get on the highway where we can have an interchange right at Barnesdale. So I know it's the environment assessment has been done, but we need to work with our provincial and federal counterpart to expedite that project. The infrastructure, Barrhaven is a city within a city. We have infrastructure requirement in Stonebridge and Half Moon Bay, but on the older Barrhaven part, we have crumbling infrastructure. The roads and sidewalks need repair. They're in a very dire state of repair. We need to make sure that we invest that money in the both part of Barrhavens, because it's a contrast. Older Barrhaven has a mature neighborhood. Also,
And what goes hand in hand with that
Hill
is the
section, if I
safety
may,
issue
because Mr.
that
Hill
goes with
wasn't able
that.
to finish.
So what goes hand in hand
so
with
Mr.
the
Hill started
infrastructure
out this
requirements?
David, just hold on one second, because you will have a chance to wrap on this topic. Go ahead, Taayo.
And so Mr. Hill started out this section by saying we need honesty and transparency. And I agree. Mr. Hill collected a number of emails, thousands of emails. He did not send it into City Council as he said he would do. Instead, he's collected those emails. He's sending out fundraising blasts. And let's talk about what he's sending out in the fundraising blast, because I've had a number of residents who've reached out to me who are disappointed by seeing this. He said that the city is not prioritizing Greenbank Road because, in his words, they want to build bike lanes downtown
Taayo,
instead. That's not true.
All of the
update
reference that I have
explicitly
sent
says,
to people who have wanted to see the Greenbank Bridge realigned is absolutely been disclosed and came out of either City Council or
David,
the city.
you'll have an ability to answer in just a moment. Go ahead and finish your thought.
Just
here,
real
Taayo.
quick, petitions are public. There's no public record of it. I called the city. They didn't see it. It didn't go to City Council as you said it would.
Jay, do you want to add something to?
I'll let Taayo finish.
Okay.
But just to finish on that, and so he said that the city was prioritizing, in his words, bike lanes downtown over road infrastructure, but that's not what the update said. I read the update, it came out in August. What they actually said is they're hearing that Greenbank Road is a priority. And so why didn't he put that in the fundraising letter? Well, that wouldn't have worked as well. And so we do need honesty.
Taayo, that
we
is
need
absolutely
transparency.
incorrect.
Okay, David, well, you have
I
a
will
chance
be
to wrap
ensuring
up,
that
so
it's
go ahead.
publicized. So the point I wanted to make when we were discussing the crumbling infrastructure is there's an element to this that has not yet been spoken to, and that is the safety component that goes with what we as city councillors can actually do in the wards to provide a safe environment for our kids and for our families there. I have advocated for a number of safe crossing sites as the population has boomed, traffic patterns have changed, and despite the fact that some of our infrastructure is outdated, some real things that we can do in that community are things like improving crossing lanes at the Barrhaven United Church.
All right, sorry,
and
David,
by
that's
Burnett
it.
Park.
That's it for your time on this topic. We're going to change formats a little bit right now, so I'm going to bring out a question or a topic. I'm going to start with you, Jay. Each individual will have a chance, 60 seconds for the topic. No debate on the topic. You'll just answer in 60 seconds, okay? Many feel there's been a lack of transparency, Jay, a lack of public consultation. Moving forward, how do we hear and from residents more than we do now to have their views heard? You have 60 seconds.
I agree with you, Derick. I think there's a lack of transparency and accountability at the City Hall. You know, one of the things that I'm proposing is a PSLA. It's called Public Service Level Agreement. You know, when we buy a service with any of the vendors, anything out there, we have a service agreement. My service agreement with the resident of my ward is that I will make sure that there's constant communication. If you contact my office within 48 hours, you will get a response. You will make sure that you hear from me or from my staff to make sure that your concerns are addressed. Transparency. We need to make sure that we don't have a cozy relationship with the developers. We want to make sure that our priorities for our ward, our community that is selected me to serve you has direct access and transparency and accountability for all the actions that I take at the City Hall. We need to make sure that I'm there to serve you, so we need to make sure that your interests are at the forefront of every single topic and transparent as much as possible to make sure that you know what's going on in your ward and you have every single information that you require to make those decisions.
Okay, thank you very much. Jay, David, you have 60 seconds, same topic.
So in terms of, well, I'll give one concrete example. About a month ago, we had the registration process for swimming lessons and community activities. The system crashed. It's not the first time the system has crashed. It's a good example of just legacy communication technology that the city is using that I'd like to see upgraded, that I'd like to see modernized so that we have a more streamlined mechanism for folks to put their kids in swimming lessons, something as simple as that. Because the reality is, the residents that we have out in the wards right now, they just don't have the time to worry about the job that their government is doing for them. They assume and they need them to just do it and do a good job of it. So when we see things like that happen, certainly those are issues that I would like to see advanced, improved, and enhanced. And certainly I've got a lot of experience working in organizations that strategic communications is a critical function. And so I'd like to bring that to City Council to support our residents.
Okay, thank you, David. Same topic. Over to you, Taayo, for 60 seconds.
Thanks, Derick. And so this is something I'm hearing a lot at the doors. I've been knocking on doors. We've hit almost 20,000 doors since May 2nd, and this is a really big issue. It's public consultation. And so the city conducts over 200 public consultations a year. How do we improve them? One, we need to engage residents earlier in the process. We need to better publicize engagement activities, whether that's through door knocking or other means. We need to do better at getting the word out. Another thing is starting earlier in the engagement process. What I've been hearing is that residents feel like their input, like their opinions are being taken in too late in the process, like they aren't given sufficient weight. We need to fix that. Public consultation is a key component of development. It's a key component of city programs and moving forward. That's what we need to do. And the other thing is we also need to provide information where the consultation is more for input purposes, and so we need to be more transparent when consultations come through. We need to be earlier, and we need to give better information.
Okay, thank you very much, Taayo. I'll start with you, David, for this one. Same format, 60 seconds for the question. There's been a great deal of criticism surrounding P3 contracts, the private-public partnerships. Some have been more successful than others. You know, we can certainly look at LRT, and we can look at Lansdowne as some of the more criticized ones. Do you believe there's a place for these contracts, and what would be some of the benefits if so? David, 60 seconds to you.
So I do believe that there's a benefits for these type of programs, and I'll give an example. The brand that Tourism Ottawa has placed on Ottawa is that it's Canada within a city, and I think that's a phenomenal brand for Ottawa because I have lived all over Canada, and I think it's amazing. From a tourism perspective, we need to bring people into Ottawa. From a capital of Canada perspective, we need a city that we're proud of. We need a city that we have an optimism about living in. And so we do need to engage in signature projects that will enhance our city. That will make it the capital that we want it to be and that we want to be proud of, and that will have an economic spillover, and that those opportunities will enable the city to be able to spend money on things that it wants. But if we don't focus on signature projects, on making sure that the city of Ottawa is an amazing place, like with Lansdowne coming down, or with the new rink coming to Lansdowne as well. Thanks.
We're out of time on that. Taayo, over to you for 60 seconds, same topic.
Thanks, Derick. So as a lawyer, I understand the importance of drafting key agreements, drafting agreements properly, especially in the P3 space. And so we know Ottawa currently has 9 public-private partnerships, including, of course, Lansdowne and LRT. And so one thing we need to do, and we need to remember that P3 projects are important. They allow the city to build large capital projects with minimum upfront costs to residents. That's important. But what we need to do is we need to make sure that these projects are properly managed. That's where the issues come in. And so we need better project management, and we can integrate that into our initial agreements. That's one. 2, we need transparency and accountability, because while there's a private aspect to this, these are also public land often, and some public funds. And so we need to ensure that that same measure and level of accountability and transparency is there. And so, just to summarize, I think when done right, P3s provide tremendous value to the city, and we need a councillor who's going to make sure we do it right.
Thank you, Taayo. Jay, over to you, 60 seconds.
I think P3 is a great way to start some of those capital projects, initiatives that we need within the city. I worked as a project manager for City of Ottawa. I successfully delivered some of the major multi-million-dollar projects, IT projects within the city. P3 is a key to make sure that we offload our risk, and we make sure that we deliver the projects in a way that is not a burden on our public and our taxpayers. What we need to do with those P3 projects is to have a better accountability. We need to make sure that we have a project oversight, that it doesn't get delayed, it gets delivered on time and on budget. And also, at the same time, we need to keep those politics out of those projects. We've seen that recently with the LRT inquiry, where this project was supposed to be done in a very efficient and a very effective manner, but because we had some political interference on this project with some of the things that were shown in the LRT inquiry, this project went south. So I think we need to have a better accountability, better oversight to make sure that those P3 projects that we select are done right and done.
Jay, sorry, your time's up for this. All right, we move on to the next topic. I'm going to start with Taayo this time. You'll have 60 seconds. In January 2020, Ottawa City Council unanimously declared homelessness an emergency here in this city. It has only worsened since then. What recommendations would you offer to Council to help tackle homelessness here in Ottawa? Go ahead, Taayo, 60 seconds.
Yeah, and so this is another issue I've personally felt. I work downtown. I've seen the homelessness issue. I used to work as a criminal defense lawyer, and so I had a number of clients who suffered from homelessness, mental health issues, addiction issues as well. And so what do we need to do at the city council level? One, we need to understand the urgency of this problem, and it's only going to get worse. And so that's one. 2, how do we do that? Emergency shelters are part of it. It's important, but we need to think longer term. And so, as I mentioned earlier in this debate, what we need to do is we need to partner with community organizations when it comes to building affordable housing units. But in the short term, it's emergency services, shelters. That's what's important. We need to increase the supply.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much, Taayo. Over to you, Jay. You have 60 seconds.
Yes, I think that's a very crucial topic that we need to address. I worked for non-profits where we supported a lot of these initiatives. Mental health is a huge issue. Homeless and mental health is connected. We need to make sure that we have those emergency shelters and support for those people that cannot afford to live in our home. Also, it's not just providing them with a shelter. We need to give them the tools that they need to make sure that they get out of that phase and be a productive member and contributing member to the society. We need to make sure that they have mentorship, they have opportunities for more training, more job training, and more opportunities for that they can get out and be a contributing factor in the society. We need to make sure that we give them all the support, mental support, and any other support that we can do to get them out of that phase to be a productive member, so that they can feel good about their mental health and also be a contributing member to our city.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Jay. David, you have 60 seconds, same topic.
Thank you. It's a heartbreaking topic to deal with, this is for sure. I've had many experiences through my career of dealing with large refugee camps and people who are living in an environment that is certainly below the standard that anybody would want them to be in. And there are no easy solutions, is the short answer. I'm committed to looking at the issues that there are available. We currently have a number of social programs that exist that do good work, and I would like to continue those efforts. But I think we need to just pivot this back to the discussion of why they're there in the first place and what causes the root issue and what we can do to help people transition out. And that's through enabling the economy so that we have dealt with issues of the affordability crisis that we have right now, so that people who are in that space of transition to potentially poverty or elsewhere, that we have opportunities for them and programs and jobs that they can get in order to get themselves help.
All right. Thank you, David. Thanks to all of you. It is now time for our closing statements. We'll do that in reverse order. So, David Hill, we start with you. You have 60 seconds for your closing statement.
Thank you very much. The City of Ottawa is at a crossroads. We're coming out of a 3-year pandemic. There's economic uncertainty, and we're set to have tremendous change at City Hall. Ottawa and Barrhaven need strong, proven, and optimistic leadership for the future. I've served my country, and now I want to serve my community here in Barrhaven. Barrhaven residents want appropriate infrastructure investments, improved community safety, more reliable transit, and reasonable taxation. And if you agree, I need your support. Visit davidhillbarrhaven.ca to volunteer, donate, request a yard sign, or just to leave me a message. Thank you very much for your time today.
All right, thank you, David. Over to Jay Chadha. Jay, you have 60 seconds.
Thank you. Barrhaven West is a rapidly growing community with the people of all ages calling this great neighborhood home. I strive to ensure your voice is heard at the council table. Your issues are what matters to me. We need to have a councillor that will not only represent you at the table, but serves you as a councillor, as a neighbor. Be your strong voice and talk about the issues that you face on a daily basis. A councillor that will bring the much needed accountability and transparency to the City Hall. A councillor that will work with others and ensures that community needs are met. We will have 11 new councillors and brand new mayor at the City Hall. You need somebody that has inside experience from City Hall. I worked for the city for 20 years. I understand the issues. I understand how city works, and I have the deep knowledge about our transit system to fix it. A councillor that will work with other counterparts at the provincial and federal level. I have developed a very good relationship with both partners. I love this community, and this is a community where I started my life in Canada in late 90s. I want to give back to this community that has given me so much, and I want to be your voice at the City Hall to serve you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jay. And our final candidate is Taayo Simmonds. Taayo, you have 60 seconds for your closing statement.
Ottawa should be the gem of local governance across Canada, a role model for other cities. But today, that's not true. Instead, our city is making headlines for all the wrong reasons. Years of infighting, mismanagement of major projects, and personal politics on council have resulted in dysfunction. We know that the next 4 years can't be like the last 4 years. For Ottawa to get back on track, we need a new approach at City Hall. We need to get to work on the issues that matter to you. As your councillor, I will fight to keep our streets safe. I will improve public transit, and I will make life more affordable for everyday families. And most of all, I will be a force for positive change at City Hall, change that puts you first.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks to all three of our candidates today. Really appreciate your time. Good luck to all of you. And thank you, of course, you at home for watching. If you want to find out more information about other debates, you can visit our website, rogerstv.com, or our YouTube channel. A reminder, Election Day is October 24th. Thanks for tuning in to your local campaign.